Separation of substances. Lesson preview. Types of mixtures. Properties of mixtures. Separation of substances. Methods of separation. Separation of insoluble solids from liquids. Evaporation. Condensation. Distillation. Importance of water as a solvent. We use a number of substances daily such as milk, water, sugar, salt, pulses, grains, fruits, and vegetables. Some of the substances we use are pure substances, i.e. they are made up of one kind of molecules only. Very few pure substances are found in nature. Most of the things we use in our daily lives are mixtures. A mixture is a physical combination of two or more pure substances that mix together without any chemical reaction taking place. All elements and compounds are pure substances. Examples of mixtures are: cold coffee is a mixture of milk, sugar, and coffee. Air is a mixture of several gases. Milk is a mixture of water, fat and solids, in form of milk proteins and carbohydrates. Lemonade is a mixture of water, sugar, lemon juice, and salt. Types of mixtures. We know that a mixture includes different substances present in it. These substances are called the components or constituents of that mixture. Sometimes, these components are spread uniformly throughout the mixture, and each part of the mixture has the same properties. Such a mixture is a homogeneous mixture. A mixture of salt or sugar dissolved completely in water forms a homogeneous mixture. Similarly, air is also a homogeneous mixture. In other mixtures, the constituents are not uniformly spread throughout the volume, and thus each part of the mixture does not have the same properties. Such a mixture is called heterogeneous mixture. For instance, a mixture of iron filings and common salt will have more iron filings in some part, while other parts will have less iron filings. Hence, various parts of this mixture will have different properties. Mixtures of chalk in water and dust in air are also heterogeneous mixtures. Two liquids that can be mixed to form a solution are called miscible liquids, whereas if two liquids cannot be mixed to form a solution, they are called immiscible liquids. Properties of mixtures. The components of a mixture can be present in any ratio. The components of a mixture retain their own properties because their molecules do not undergo any change. For instance, salt and water retain their properties when mixed. The components of mixtures can be separated by simple methods. Separation of substances. Separation means removing one thing from the other in a mixture. We separate a mixture into its components for different purposes. We strain tea to remove tea leaves. We churn milk to separate butter. We remove cream from milk to use it as an ingredient in many dishes. You must have often removed green chilies or curry leaves when served with poha or upama. We separate out vegetables or fruits from a basket by simply placing them in separate containers. Separating out big items is easy. But what if we have to separate salt from water or mud from water? Can you remove it by picking? Need for separation. Let us look at some of the reasons for separating components from mixtures. To remove undesirable constituents or non-useful components, e.g. removing tea leaves from tea, removing curry patta from dishes. To remove harmful components or impurities, e.g. removing small stones from pulses. To obtain useful components, e.g. churning milk to obtain butter, separating petrol and kerosene from crude oil. To get pure substances for research work. Methods of separation. The components mixed together vary in size, shape, color, and many other properties. The separation of a component from a mixture is carried out on the principle that each component has a unique property which is not shared by any other component. Various methods are used for separating the components of a mixture. Let us study some commonly used methods for separating substances that are mixed together. Separation of solids from solids. Hand picking, sieving, threshing and winnowing are the commonly used methods to separate components from a mixture of solids. Hand picking. Hand picking is commonly used at home for separating undesirable substances from the useful ones when the size, shape, or color of undesirable substances is different, and the quantity of impurities is not very large. This is the simplest method of separation. Example: removing impurities like pieces of dirt, stone and husk from wheat, rice and pulses by hand picking. Activity: take 2 handfuls of rice pulse and spread it on a sheet of white paper. Do you find some small stones, husk, and broken grains? Remove them. This method of separation is hand picking. Sieving. You must have often seen your mother sieving atta before making chapatis. She does this to remove bran and other undesirable substances present in atta. We use this method to separate constituents of a mixture having particles of bigger sizes than the holes in the sieve. A sieve is like a net or mesh which has holes of the same size. The fine particles of atta pass through the sieve while the bran remains on the sieve. You must have seen sieving on construction sites to remove pebbles from sand. Activity: mix little besan with atta. Sieve the two. Can you separate besan and atta by sieving? What remains on the sieve? What do you infer from this? Sieving is useful when the mixture consists of components having different particle sizes. Threshing. After harvesting of wheat or paddy, the grains have to be separated from their stalks. You must have seen wheat or paddy stalks lying in the fields in bundles. The grains are separated from the stalks by a process called threshing. This is done by beating the stalks on a hard surface to free the grain seeds. Traditionally, threshing was carried out by making oxen or donkeys or bullocks walk in circles on the stalks on a hard surface. These days machines are used to thresh large quantities of harvested crops. Winnowing. The next step after threshing is the separation of grains from the husk. The grains are heavier than the husk/chaff. This property is used in winnowing. The mixture is allowed to fall from a height. The wind blows away the husk/chaff which is lighter, while the grains which are heavier fall vertically down forming a heap. The chaff forms a heap at a small distance from the heap of grains. The husk separated is used as fodder for the cattle. Winnowing is used to separate heavier and lighter components of a mixture by wind or by blowing air. Activity: mix sawdust and mud together. Can you separate it by hand picking or by sieving? Next, go to an open place. Put the mixture on a plate, stand on a stool, and hold the plate at shoulder height. Slowly tilt the plate, and let the mixture slide off. What do you notice? Record your observations. Separation of insoluble solids from liquids. It is not always possible to separate the components of a mixture by simple methods like hand picking and winnowing. This is especially true if the mixture consists of both solid and liquid components. Sedimentation and decantation. Insoluble substances which are heavier than water can be separated by sedimentation and decantation. Sedimentation is the process in which the heavier particles of an insoluble solid settle down in a liquid. Decantation is the pouring out of the clear liquid after sedimentation. Activity: take a beaker, fill it with water, add a little sand, mix with a glass rod, let it stand for half an hour. What do you observe? It will be seen that the heavier sand particles settle down at the bottom of the beaker, B. Now carefully tilt the beaker, and pour the water into another beaker using a glass rod, C. Do not disturb the sediment. We can separate two immiscible liquids like oil and water by the process of sedimentation and decantation. If a mixture of two such liquids is allowed to stand for some time, they form two separate layers. We can then separate the top layer carefully by decantation. A separating funnel is used to separate a mixture of two immiscible liquids. Filtration. Filtration is another method for removing suspended impurities from a liquid. It is a process by which an insoluble solid is removed from a liquid by allowing the liquid to pass through a strainer, filter paper or muslin cloth. A filter paper has very fine holes which allow water to flow, but not sand or mud. You must have seen your mother preparing tea at home. What does she do after the tea is prepared? She pours the tea through a strainer, wire or plastic mesh. The tea leaves remain in the strainer whereas the tea flows out into the cup. Here, the strainer does the work of a filter. Activity. Take a mixture of water and sawdust. You will notice that the sawdust does not dissolve in water, as it is insoluble in water. Take a round filter paper. Fold it as shown in the figure. Place the filter paper in the funnel, D. Fix the funnel to a stand, and place a beaker under the funnel. Slowly pour the mixture of sawdust and water into the cone using a glass rod. What do you observe? You will see clear water flowing out of the funnel, and particles of sawdust remaining on the filter paper. This is called the residue. The clear liquid which flows out is called the filtrate. We can use a piece of muslin cloth, cotton or a filter paper as filters. Fruit juice is usually filtered through a cloth to remove the seeds and solid particles before drinking. You must have seen muslin cloth at home. When ghee is prepared from butter or cream, your mother must be using a muslin cloth to filter the pure ghee. Paneer is made from milk by adding lemon juice/curd as it boils. Paneer is then separated by filtering the mixture through a fine cotton cloth or through a strainer. We use water filters to remove solid impurities from drinking water. Separation of soluble solids from liquids. Substances which dissolve in a liquid are called soluble substances. When a substance is mixed or dissolved completely in a liquid, a solution is formed. Evaporation. In all the above examples, we separated various components which are not soluble in water. Evaporation is used to separate solids dissolved in a liquid. The process of conversion of water into water vapor on heating is called evaporation. Evaporation of water is a continuous process in the nature. This method is used on a large scale to get salt from seawater. Activity. Dissolve some salt in a little water in a beaker. Heat the beaker. Let the water evaporate completely. After the water evaporates, you will see a white residue left behind. Taste it. Is it salty? The seawater is allowed to stand in shallow pits. It gets heated up by sunlight and slowly changes into water vapor. The solid salt is left behind. This salt is further purified in factories. Separation of mixtures using more than one method. Very often it is not possible to separate different substances present in a mixture using a single method. In such cases, we have to use more than one method. Activity. Take a mixture of sand and sugar. How will you separate them? It is not possible to separate them either by hand picking or sieving or winnowing. Add water to the mixture of sand and sugar. Stir well to dissolve sugar. Let the beaker stand aside for half an hour. You will notice sand settling down at the bottom. Separate the sand by decantation and then filtration. The filtrate will contain water and sugar. To get back the sugar, evaporate the solution as in Activity 6. Condensation. When steam or water vapor comes in contact with a cold surface, it changes into water droplets. The change of water vapor into water is called condensation. Activity. Heat the mixture of sugar and water in a kettle. After some time, you will see steam coming out of the spout. Take a metal plate with ice on it. Hold it above the spout of the kettle. Do you notice something? When the steam comes in contact with the cold plate, it condenses and forms water which can be collected in a beaker as shown in the diagram. We can thus separate a mixture of sand, sugar, and water by a combination of processes: decantation, filtration, evaporation, and condensation. Distillation. Distillation is a method to obtain pure liquid from a solution. The solution is first heated to evaporate the liquid. The vapors are then cooled, which condense to give pure liquid. Distilled water used in chemistry labs is obtained by distillation in an apparatus called Liebig's condenser fitted to the flask containing impure water. When sugar is added to water and stirred thoroughly, it dissolves completely. When a substance dissolves in a liquid, it breaks down to its individual molecules which spread out in the vacant spaces between the molecules of the liquid. Hence, here the sugar breaks into its molecules and seems to disappear in the water, forming a solution of sugar in water. Here, water is called the solvent, and the substance, sugar, that dissolves in it is the solute. A solvent and a solute together make a solution. Since water can dissolve a large number of different substances in it, it is called the universal solvent. Activity 1. Take some water in a glass. Add a teaspoon of salt in it. Stir it well till the salt dissolves completely. Add another teaspoon of salt, and stir well. Keep adding more and more salt till it does not dissolve, no matter how much you stir. We now have a saturated solution of salt. When no more of solute can be dissolved in a solution at a particular temperature, it is called a saturated solution at that temperature. 2. Heat the solution. You will observe that the undissolved salt has dissolved in the solution. 3. Now cool the solution. What do you observe? Some salt will again settle at the bottom. A mixture of two miscible liquids can be separated by fractional distillation. It is a process of separating a mixture of liquids by heating. Each part of the mixture is a fraction. Different liquids have different boiling points. The two liquids will evaporate separately and then each fraction condenses in its own separate compartment in the apparatus. In industries, various components of crude oil such as petrol, kerosene, diesel, etc., are separated by the process of fractional distillation. Importance of water as a solvent. Importance of water for life is due to its ability to dissolve a wide range of substances in it. No life process, either in animals or plants, can occur without the presence of water. Food cannot be absorbed by our body until it is dissolved in water. In the digestion process, food is broken down into simple substances which are soluble in water. These dissolved simple substances are then absorbed by the body. Different waste materials produced by the body are dissolved in water and then excreted. Water acts as a medium for many essential chemical reactions which occur in the body. Plants are able to absorb nutrients from the soil only when they dissolve in water. Minerals from roots and food from leaves are transported to different parts of the plant in the form of their solutions in water. Aquatic life is able to survive in water because gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide are soluble in water. Aquatic animals need this dissolved oxygen to breathe, while aquatic plants need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Activity. Take 2 glasses of water. Add 1 teaspoon of salt in 1 glass, and stir well till the salt dissolves. Keep adding 1 teaspoon of salt at a time, till you get a saturated solution. A solution becomes saturated when no more of solute can be dissolved in it at that temperature. Note down the number of teaspoons of salt that dissolved in water. Now heat the glass. Does more salt dissolve in it now? Repeat the same activity with sugar in the other glass of water. You can repeat this activity with any number of substances that are soluble in water. Substance. number of teaspoons, salt, sugar. From this activity, we can say that different quantities of different substances dissolve in a fixed quantity of water. The solubility of most substances increases with increase in temperature.